Introduction of digestion. So how the digestion takes place in the human beings? The digestion is very important factor occurs in the living organisms like human beings. So how the digestion takes place in the human beings? Here the digestion takes place through the gastrointestinal tract that begins with the mouth and ends with an anus. You see here from the mouth to anus, it is a long, narrow, tube-like structure and coiled at some places. So this is called as alimentary canal, and which is also known as gastrointestinal tract. So through this, the digestion process will be taking place. Let us see what is digestion. So digestion is a form of catabolic process. What is catabolic process? The catabolism means, or catabolic means, here it is catalysis. So catalysis is nothing but broken down into small pieces. The process is known as catabolism. So here digestion is a catabolic process. So whenever the food taken in the form of large molecules, that has to be converted into small pieces. The conversion of large food molecules into the small food molecules is known as catabolic process, and that is also known as digestion. So now we can say that digestion is a catabolic process that can broken down to large food molecules into small food molecules. So what we will do the digestion process, after finishing of digestion, what we will get? So through the digestion process we will get the energy. That energy is used for the growth, repair, etc. in the human beings. So that's why digestion is very important. The digestion which takes place through the gastrointestinal tract and associated glands. So gastrointestinal tract itself cannot digest the food into small pieces. How it participates here? The alimentary canal or gastrointestinal tract associate with the associated glands. So then only enzymes and hormones will be produced. The hormones can or enzymes can participate in the digestion process, and the large food molecules will be converted to small food molecules. So in the form of small food molecules only we can digest the food and we can get the energy into our blood cells. So that is the process involved in the digestion. So you see that alimentary canal or gastrointestinal tract is composed with various organs. So here alimentary canal is begins with mouth and ends with an anus region. So between that of so many organs will be associated or arranged on the alimentary canal. You see that here mouth, just behind the mouth pharynx is present, and then it is immediately followed by esophagus, and esophagus is a narrow tube-like structure which opens into the stomach, and stomach opens into the coiled structure called small intestine, and small intestine which opens into the large intestine, and large intestine finally open outside through the anus region. You see that the mouth, pharynx, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine and anus are the main structures which are located on the alimentary canal or gastrointestinal tract. So what is the importance of all these organs in the digestion process? In each part of the organ of alimentary canal, that participates in the digestion process. You see here we mentioned some digestion process and what are the molecules will be digested by that process. Okay, let us see how the digestion process takes place in different regions of the alimentary canal. See that alimentary canal, I already told you that mouth, it is beginning with mouth. So whenever the food enters into the mouth, how the food will be digested? See that whenever the food, actually while taking the food we will take in the form of large molecules. Large molecules cannot be entered into the stomach directly. That has to be converted into small pieces. So where that mastication or where that breakdown takes place in the alimentary canal. So whenever the food is taken to the mouth region, immediately mouth is composed with the teeth. So while taking the food into the mouth, the mastication process is taken place through the teeth structure. So teeth can masticate the food into small pieces or broke down into the small pieces. So that process, the mastication, is also known as a mechanical digestion. So during the mechanical digestion, then what happens? You see that mechanical digestion includes two specific processes are there. What are they here? They are known as chewing process and swallowing process. So whenever the food taken into the mouth, we can break the food into small pieces. The process is known as mastication or chewing. So after finishing of chewing process, that is mixed up with saliva and which is released by the tongue. So salivary amylase is released after mastication of food, that is mixed each other and transforms into a large sized bowl, that is called as bolus. The bolus enters into the another part of alimentary canal, which is located just behind the mouth region. So how the food is entered into this pharynx region? We cannot push directly into the pharynx region here. So whenever the food is transformed into bolus, the bolus is pushed into the next part of the alimentary canal, that is called as pharynx region. And here the process is known as swallowing. So here we can say that mouth included with two specific process, that is mechanical digestion and the chemical digestion. So during the mechanical digestion process, it undergoes chewing process and swallowing process. So chewing is nothing but mastication of food into small pieces, and swallowing is nothing but pushing the food into the next region of the alimentary canal. That is also known as peristaltic movement. So by that process, the food will be entered into the next part of the alimentary canal, and that is called as mechanical digestion. And if it enters into the mouth, so I already told you that after finishing of mastication, the food is regurgitized or mixed up with some enzymes, that is called as salivary amylase. The food is converted into carbohydrates, and the food is included with carbohydrates and fats. So here carbohydrates and fats are partially digested by the releasing of salivary amylase through the tongue. So here the chemical digestion will be finished partially, and that is known as here that chemical digestion, mechanical digestion takes place in the mouth region. And after finishing of chemical digestion, that enters into the esophagus, and from the esophagus into the stomach. So esophagus is a narrow tube-like structure and which opens into the small sac-like muscular bag-like structure called the stomach. So whenever the food passes from the mouth, pharynx, esophagus into the stomach region, there what happens? How the food is digested? See that here the bolus comes into the stomach region. So whenever the bolus comes into the stomach region, here also mechanical digestion takes place and chemical digestion takes place, and along with that partial absorption also will be taking place. You see that mechanical digestion, how the mechanical digestion takes place in the stomach region. So here food is regurgitized, and that is peristaltic mixing. That is also known as peristaltic mixing. The peristaltic mixing takes place in the stomach region, and food is mixed up each other molecules, and along with that the food will be mixed completely, and then it enters the process called propulsion. Propulsion is nothing but whenever the food is peristaltic mixing is finished, then the food passes into the remaining part of the, actually the stomach region is divided to three parts. Here pyloric stomach, cardiac stomach and fundic stomach. Three regions will be present: cardiac stomach, fundic stomach and pyloric stomach. Three regions are present in the stomach region, and whenever the food passes into the stomach, there peristaltic mixing takes place. At the same time propulsion will be taking place. So after that the chemical digestion of proteins and fats will be taking place. You see that this is the wall of stomach region, and that is composed with a specified glandular part. This is called as gastric glands. This part is known as what? Gastric glands. So these gastric glands are composed with various enzymatic structures. So gastric glands can produce various types of enzymes and hormones to digest the food molecules. So here, after finishing of propulsion and peristaltic mixing of food, that enters into the remaining parts nothing but inside the stomach region, the food undergoes chemical digestion. So here the proteins and fats will be chemically digested. So chemical digestion, how the chemical digestion takes place here? By releasing of gastric juices. The wall of stomach is composed with the gastric glands. The gastric glands can secrete various types of enzymes. By the enzymatic actions, their proteins and fats will be partially digested. And then it undergoes absorption process. So here partial absorption takes place, and the absorption of lipid soluble substances such as alcohol and aspirin will be absorbed here. So that is, the partial absorption takes place in the lipid soluble substances like alcohol and aspirin will be partially absorbed. And then here the partially absorbed molecules in the form of chyme, that is partially digested acidic food is formed in the stomach, that will be pushed in the next part of the alimentary canal called small intestine. So what happens in the small intestine? So partially digested acidic food enters into the small intestine through the stomach region. There again mechanical digestion takes place, chemical digestion takes place. Here also partial absorption takes place. So what happens in the mechanical digestion in the small intestine? So it includes mixing, same whatever happens in the stomach region, here also the food is mixed, and then propulsion primarily by segmentation. So propulsion nothing but pushed into the further part or forwarded part, that is called as propulsion process, and it is taken place by the segmentation. Segmentation nothing but making them into small pieces. The process is known as segmentation. By the segmentation process, propulsion takes place here, and here mixing of food also will be taking place. So that is the mechanical digestion involved in the small intestine. And here the chemical digestion. So chemical digestion basically takes place through the releasing of pancreatic juices. So it is composed with various enzymes. The enzymes can convert the food into small, that is easily absorbable food molecules. Complete digestion takes place in the small intestine by releasing of pancreatic juices, and which are provided with many enzymes. So they are stearopsin, maltase, sucrase, lactase, etc. will be enzymes will be produced. Nucleases, carboxypeptidase, these are all enzymes produced by the pancreas, and by the releasing of that enzymes, the chemical digestion takes place in the small intestine. So what are the molecules will be digested in the small intestine? Here we can see that carbohydrates, fats, polypeptides, nucleic acids will be digested completely. If you have taken different kinds of material in the food molecules, so they are completely digested by the releasing of pancreatic juices, and if it is included with the carbohydrates, fats, polypeptides and nucleic acids, they will be completely digested. So that by releasing of pancreatic juices, carbohydrates, fats, polypeptides and nucleic acids will be completely digested. And then absorption also will be taking place here. So it is also known as partial absorption, and in stomach also we have seen that absorption taking place in the lipid soluble substance like alcohol and aspirin. But in small intestine, peptides, amino acids, glucose, fructose, fats, water, minerals and vitamins will be absorbed, because if they are released outside through the urine or feces, we can remove our energy sources through the feces or urine particles. To avoid that, absorption will be taken in the small intestine. So it absorbs the peptides, amino acids, glucose, fructose, fats, water, minerals, vitamins, etc. And here the complete digestion, whenever it is finished, the remaining particles, undigested food particles or unnecessary food particles, enters into the large intestine from the small intestine. So in large intestine what happens? So here, whenever the food enters into the large intestine, it included with segmental mixing and propulsion will be taking place. We have discussed the segmental mixing and propulsion process. Segmental mixing nothing but unwanted food particles or undigested food particles will be segmented, means that is completely broken down into small pieces. And propulsion, that is pushed into the another parts of the alimentary canal. So here segmental mixing as well as propulsion will be taking place. And here no chemical digestion takes place because of there will be no specified glands, and the glands cannot produce hormones and enzymes. So by that way, here no chemical digestion will be taking place. And one more thing, we can say that the digestion completely finished in small intestine. There will be no necessity of production of any enzymes and hormones. So by that way, no chemical digestion takes place in the large intestine. So large intestine exclusively useful for the releasing of feces, as well as if any water molecules are present in the large intestine, that will be reabsorbed by the large intestine. So that is the main function of here absorption, large intestine. So it absorbs various ions, water, minerals, vitamins, organic molecules, etc. They are also very essential factors which are required by our body system. So that is absorbed by the large intestine. So like this way, the digestion will be taking place in the alimentary canal. We have already discussed that alimentary canal or gastrointestinal tract importance in digestion. So alimentary canal or gastrointestinal tract itself cannot participate in the complete digestion of food. It is associated with some glands. The glands are associated with alimentary canal, or here mouth is composed with salivary glands, and here liver is there, pancreatic juices are released from the pancreas, and gastric glands, intestinal glands, etc. So by all these glands, the total digestion process will be taking place.